All right, March Madness is in full swing. After a day of exciting games, there were several upsets, according to CBS Sports, after Georgia State's win against Baylor. 99% of CBS brackets are now busted.
Wow, really? 99%?
99%.
All right, joining us now is Matt Bonesteel, sports reporter at the Early Lead for the Washington Post. So, Matt, thanks for being here. Let's start with yesterday. What a day. Which games were you most surprised by?
You got to look at that Georgia State. It was such a great visual to see R.J. Hunter hit that three-pointer for Georgia State, and then his father, Ron Hunter, the coach of Georgia State, fall off his chair on the bench. It was just it was one of the most memorable visuals we've seen in a long time in the NCAA tournament.
And Kentucky is still undefeated, Matt. They play Cincinnati in the next round. Is there any sign of them slowing down?
I don't think so. I don't think so, not until the Final Four. There really isn't a team that can beat them standing in their way, at least until they get to the Final Four. Last night they looked a little sluggish in the early going against Hampton, but it was a lot to do. It was a very late start, the game before it went to overtime, and they were very, very sluggish. But then they got going, and they won fairly comfortably. And a lot of it, the game didn't end till 1 a.m. So I think that can explain it for a lot of things.
Hey, Matt, everyone loves a Cinderella team during March Madness. My pick was Harvard, and I thought they were going to actually squeak it out yesterday. Do you have any picks for Cinderella teams that can make it really far into the tournament?
And they actually could. There are two who could actually end up playing each other in the next round if they win today. One is Buffalo, who plays West Virginia today. They're led by Bobby Hurley, who everyone knows is the former Duke player. He knows all about the NCAA tournament. He's played in 20 NCAA tournament games in the early 90s with Duke, which is only 4 players have played in more. So they play West Virginia, which is a good matchup for them. And then the game that immediately follows that, Valparaiso plays Maryland. Valparaiso is one of the better defensive teams in the country. And they could give Maryland fits. And if those two teams both surprise everyone, they'll meet in the next round.
You know, Matt, so those are the things people are going to be watching for today, but I still can't get over yesterday. I have to tell you, in the newsroom here, you mentioned Harvard. When that game was happening, our newsroom, it sounded like people were getting root canals. I mean, there was agony. I was like, do we need to bring in a medical team? And you know what? Days like yesterday, they really, I think, sort of convert people who might not otherwise be that interested in March Madness. If, like, sports is a religion, basketball is a religion to some people, well, yesterday seemed to me with all those upsets. And, of course, you mentioned Georgia State. Now I'm going to be rooting for Georgia State. What a great storyline with the father and son, like you mentioned. I mean, that was sort of a once-in-a-decades kind of moment yesterday with all those upsets.
It was, but it wasn't, and especially as the years have gone by, there's become a lot more parity in college basketball where the lower seeded teams like Georgia State have a better, they're not as, it's not as much of a blowout as you think it would be. So these type of things are happening more and more as the years gone on. There's just so much talent for colleges to pick from. And even the smaller schools can find the diamond in the rough that can lead them into the NCAA tournament and then succeed in the NCAA tournament.
So exciting to watch. Matt Bonesteel from the Washington Post, thank you for that.
Thank you.